Good afternoon, and welcome to Let's Talk About It, All the Things. Hi, Whitney.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Excellent. Today we are so excited to talk to Abigail Rowe. She is a recent high school grad who started her own nonprofit at the age of 14.
I'm sorry. I'm going to do it. That's a lot.
Thank you.
Yes, kudos. So her nonprofit is Abigail's Pride, and we thought June is the perfect month.
It is.
To have Abigail on and talk about the LGBTQ plus community and her work with Abigail's Pride and what it means to her and the future of it too.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting. So welcome, Abigail.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is very exciting.
Yes, absolutely. So why don't you just start by kind of telling Whitney and I a little bit. I mean, 14.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah.
How do you come up with that at 14?
That's
Well,
crazy.
So I've been in Girl Scouts my whole life. And when you get to a certain point in Girl Scouts, they want you to do, or you have the opportunity to do, your Bronze Award, Silver Award, and Gold Award. And it's they're all like huge community service projects. And Bronze, you do it with your whole troop. And it's like very like leader led, and you do it with a bunch of adults. And then Silver, you get a small group, and then Gold, you do it all by yourself. And that's all through high school. You can do your Gold Award. Middle school is Silver. You do Bronze before that. And I was struggling to find a topic for my Gold Award or what to do, but I knew I wanted to. And at the same time, I had just recently come out, and I had said to my mom in the car on the way home from Christmas, actually, at my grandma's house, I want to go to a Pride Festival so badly, but I know that it's not feasible for us to get out to a big one in one of the big cities. So I wish that somebody would just buck up and do it here. And we're driving down this road in the dark Michigan in the winter, and she like pulls over a little bit, turns to me and goes, "Well, why don't you just do it?" And I was like, okay. And when I got home, I had like a binder with a rainbow scribbled on the front of it and labeled it like Pride in Ortonville. And then it didn't happen until the following June, like not the next one, but the one after that.
Yeah.
But it was crazy because it started as like, oh, I just want to go. That was the initial idea sparked because of that. But I wouldn't have done it if it was just I wanted to go to a Pride Festival. I would have just had my parents drive me somewhere. But I realized that I live in a tiny town. It's called Ortonville. Nobody knows where that is. I always say like population 6, and it's me and my family and our dog. Like nobody lives there. But anyway, I know that there's a lot of queer and LGBTQ youth in that area because they're my friends. Those are the people that I have grown up with my entire time at school. And I know that they struggle, some of them, and some of them struggle because their families aren't supportive, and some of them struggle because they don't have friends and they can't find friends, and some of them just struggle like the rest of us because we're in such a small conservative town, and the town it doesn't feel like it's made for us. And I wanted to make it clear that it is. And so I was like, well, we're going to have a Pride Festival, and it's different than your typical, like, what people would think of as a Pride Festival. I really tried to make it a family-friendly, like, targeted at youth event. So we've had kids games every year, and this past year we actually had bounce houses, and it was really great this year, the event. It was June 1st, I think. Yep, June 1st. Thanks. And it's always been so nice to see young people or like LGBTQ people with their families who who just want to be a normal family for the day, or kids who I know and I go to school with who are finally expressing themselves, and I've never seen them do that before. And I get emotional talking about it because it's like, it's difficult because I see the kids who struggle, and I wish that they had more than just one day a year. But I'm happy that they have at least that one day where they can just feel like themselves and not feel like they're being judged for it.
That's amazing. That's just so incredible.
That is. I can't give you enough kudos for that.
Thanks.
That really is. So you started this around April of 2021?
Yes. So I had the idea December of 2020, and then we started planning it, and then by April of 2021, we applied to be an official, like, 501c3 nonprofit.
Okay. Awesome.
Wow. That's so amazing to me.
It really is.
Oh my gosh.
Not too many people would take initiative just in general over any topic like that,
Yeah.
let alone a pride festival.
Yeah.
So,
That's a huge, huge undertaking.
Yeah. It's funny because at this point we've done it for 3 years. I've been working on it for almost 4 years, and it just feels like it's part of my life because I started it right when I started high school. And it's just been so intertwined with my high school experience that people say like, oh, that's such a big undertaking, like you guys just said. But to me, it's just like, no, I just did it. It was just normal for me. But then I step back and I realize like, oh,
Yeah.
that's not normal. Most kids don't do that.
No. I mean, yeah, like, wow, you did this. Like, this is a really big deal. It's very cool. So over the 3 years, I mean, I'm sure it's growing. I mean, can you talk a little like so with the Pride Festival, like, do you guys like do you have food trucks? Like what, like, do you have activities or
is there like an actual parade?
yeah, like what do you guys do?
So we've always done food trucks, and we have vendors also. The first year we had 25 vendors, including food trucks, and then the second year we had 40.
Whoa.
And then this past year we had 60 almost.
Oh my gosh.
So we've grown a lot since the first event, and I think this past year was the best, like the most successful for the vendors and the food trucks. We had food trucks and vendors sell out of things, and everybody that I talked to said they did really well. And then every year we've done some sort of kids game or activity or family game. I guess the adults can do it too, but they typically don't. Yeah. I don't usually see many adults in a hula hoop contest, but it's fine. Actually, we had an adult almost win, and then I told her that she had to let one of the kids win. But we've always had something like that, and it varies. Sometimes it's more like carnival games where it's just set up, and then this past year we nixed the carnival games and just did scheduled event type things. Yeah. But we got rid of the carnival games in favor of 3, sorry, not 6, that'd be way too many. 3 inflatable like bounce house type things from Oakland County Parks. They actually donated their time and their staffing, and they like let us rent them without paying for them basically.
Oh, that was so nice.
Yeah, it was incredible. And the first 2 years we did have a parade, and it was like we had a float in it, like my organization, and then sponsors got a float in it, and then I offered it up to any like school group. So I know the Brandon theater, I'm in theater, so they're my like in everywhere. They were in the parade both years, and the choir did it, and a couple other groups that I don't really remember because it was over a year ago. Yeah. But this past year we weren't able to do a parade because we had to switch the location.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that. You were saying something. What happened with that? Was it is it township or city?
So there's the village of Ortonville, and that's inside Brandon Township.
Okay.
It's really complicated. I still don't 100% understand like who has jurisdiction over where, but we the permit process the first 2 years was very easy. It was like fill out a paper, and then we went to get it signed by the chief of police and the fire chief, and then we would bring it to the Ortonville Village Council, and they would vote yes or no to approve the permit. And that's the same permit that every event would pull. Like, I pulled the same permit as trick-or-treating in town where they didn't close the roads, and it was 1 hour. That actually got approved the first year. My event got approved the same day that the trick-or-treating did, and it was October of that year, so I was way ahead of the game.
Yeah.
But it was super simple. And then some people wanted to change the permit process. And I'm not going to sit here and say they wanted to change the permit process because of me, but they changed it. And it turned into a massive packet of paperwork. And that wasn't the issue. We were like, yeah, it should be different. We shouldn't pull the same permit because we should have more safety measures in place, and we should have more, like, you should know if we're going to have bathrooms and where the road closures need to be, and that should all be on the permit because it's a massive event.
Right.
Compared to some of the other ones. And so we applied for the permit in February at the February Village Council meeting, and part of the thing that they changed also was that instead of us going to get it signed by the chief of police and the fire chief, they took it and got it signed by them. And so at first we had a little bit of an issue where the chief of police didn't sign it at first because he had an issue with something. He came to us because he's my brother's baseball coach. We know him personally. So he came to me and my mom and was like, hey, what? And we explained to him the situation, and he was like, oh, re-signed it, we're good, it's going through to the meeting for approval. In the February meeting, they voted 5 to 1 no to not approve it. So only one person voted to approve it, and the rest of them voted not to.
Wow.
And our council board, or our village council, is supposed to have 7 people on the board, and they only had 6 because somebody resigned or they didn't fill the spot. And so we had to have 4 out of 6 say yes in order to get it, because it still has to be majority. So they shot it down in February, and because of the timeline, we only could apply again in March. You have to be 6 months out from your event, or you have to start 6 months out from your event, and then you have only a certain amount of time to, like, get it approved before they won't approve it closer. Okay. So they say. I'll tell more about that in a second. But, so we were like, oh, dang, okay. That got attention. I was interviewed by the news. People started contacting us on Facebook. It was wild. And so we started getting letters of support. We actually had to open a P.O. box for the first time. Everything else was being sent to my house. And my mom was like, we're not putting our home address on anything anymore.
Yeah.
We had like 45 letters from people to the village council saying, like, please approve this event. We support Abigail's Pride. And it was incredible. My team was like busting our butts to figure out every little picky thing that they picked apart at that meeting, the first one. And they said, like, oh, we don't know if you're going to have porta potties. And we were like, we never needed them before because there's public restrooms here. And they were like, no, you need them now. And we were like, okay. The other thing that they changed in the permit process was that we had to pay for a bunch of stuff. We never had to pay for our permits. Now it was like you have to pay for each road barricade that they put out, and for each trash can that they put out, and each porta potty that you rent from us. And so we said, we'll pay for your road barricades. Everything else we'll supply ourselves, because I feel as though they were changing it and making it more expensive to try to make me not have the event. Mm-hmm. And I I feel that way personally because Abigail's Pride that year was the only event so far since they had changed the permit process that came in as an outside organization. Everything else is run through our Ortonville Village DDA or Brandon Township, and they had their fees waived.
Oh.
Anything that was a government organization didn't have to pay. And I was the only one who came in that wasn't a government organization. Interesting.
Seems suspicious.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't say that it was on purpose or not, but it did happen. So the March meeting is coming up, and I'm being interviewed by the news, and they're asking, what are you going to do if they deny it? And I said, figure it out. I can't in good conscience cancel it knowing how much it has helped people the last 2 years. And so we go to the meeting, the March meeting. They actually had to have it at the Brandon Township building because they were expecting a high capacity, and we blew the capacity of the building out of the water. There were people who came to support me who were waiting outside to hear what they said. And I remember it was like introduction to the meeting and then public comment, and there was an hour for public comment, and the entire hour was taken up with people speaking. There was a line at the podium for people to talk. I spoke first, and one of the things that I said is, we need this. The kids here need this. The people that you're supposed to represent need this. And even if that means the businesses are going to lose one day of business, which we know isn't true because events bring business to downtown,
Right.
but even if it was true, even if every single business had to close that day, saving the lives of me and my friends and the kids who are going to come after me is way more important than one Saturday a year of money.
Yeah.
And if you vote to deny it and claim it's because of the businesses, then you're proving that you care more about money than you care about us.
Wow. That's very impactful.
Yeah.
I watched the live feed, so you had that on a live feed.
Yeah.
And my husband and I actually watched it, and I was just, I mean, I can't imagine how blown away you were by all the support of people coming in, and some of the stories that people shared was just, like just unbelievable.
I was a wreck. I was a wreck that day. I was sitting right in the front row, and I was just crying, and the president of the village council was sitting there, and we would make eye contact, and I would be like staring him down, and I'm just like sitting in this chair silently sobbing while people are supporting me. And I have my mom on one side and Tara, who is our social media director, but she's so much more than that. She's like my best bud. She helped so much the past few years with the festival and everything. She's amazing. And right next to her is Marianne, and they would switch seats, the two of them, and they'd both be on my side like, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. It doesn't matter what happens. Like, you're doing great. And Marianne came in with pictures, and she's our co-director, and she came in with pictures. She was like, evidence. And other people were like, please, my daughter needs this. And some people were like, you guys are crazy. Why'd you deny it the first time? And just hearing all of these people like come to support, there were, I don't even know how many people there. Like, you were limited to 3 minutes each, so 60 minutes, that's 20 people who spoke-ish.
Yes,
and only 4 or 5 of them were speaking about either something different or against me. And it was so surreal. And then it got to be time for the council members to make comments, and one of the council members, I won't name their name, sorry, I gave it away.
Okay.
She had said that she never felt so bullied in her life because she had voted to deny it the first time.
What?
And
She felt bullied?
yeah. And I felt like, that felt like a punch to the gut.
Yeah.
I was like, you feel bullied? And I'm trying to remember what the order of events was, because two of my closest friends weren't planning to speak that day. And I think after she had said that, they decided to speak. So maybe she said that during public comment, or something was said by one of the council members that encouraged them to speak. And one of my closest friends said, to go back to what Abby said about us needing this, we're dying. I know, and my friend who said this, he knows multiple friends of ours through our middle and high school experience who have died from suicide because they didn't feel accepted here. And he said that. He said, my friends, that they're not here anymore. And maybe they would be if this had happened before.
Yeah. Wow. I think I actually remember his statement. I think it was near the end. And
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, wow, if they don't take that to heart,
Yeah, there's nothing.
I mean, I can't.
Yeah. My mom had even leaned over to me after that and said, I think they're going to approve it. And at that point, I was scared about if they were going to approve it, what I was going to do, because I didn't think that we had the capacity in town anymore with how much attention we were getting. But I wanted them to approve it, because even if they approve it and then I say, we can't, we have to find somewhere else to do it anyway, or we have to close another street or something, it's still the principle of it. You should approve it because that's the right thing to do.
Correct. Yep.
And so it gets time for them to vote, and they shot it down. This time it was 4-2. So we changed one person's mind. And she had actually called my mom before this whole meeting, or my mom had called her, or somehow they got into contact with each other, and she said, I feel bad. I feel like we look bad, and I let them convince me that it was about the businesses, and I don't think that the businesses are struggling at all, and I don't want you to think that I don't support your goal and your mission. Wow. And so she had changed her mind, and the council member who had voted yes before voted yes again, and the rest of them shot it down, so not approved, and we have no chance of coming back.
What was their reasoning? I mean, did they give you a specific reason as to why all of a sudden? So you've had it down there for 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to have it down there a third year. It's been fine. There's been no incidences, no anything. So why the change of heart?
Yeah, side of businesses.
Yeah.
That was their only reason.
Was businesses?
Was that the first time that they denied it, they said that they needed more information in our packet about public restrooms and trash facilities, like just the facilities that we were renting. So we put that in there. They said, thank you for fixing that. But the second time they shut it down, their only reason was that they fear that events downtown harm the businesses. And it's funny because we actually had multiple business owners in town come and speak that day and say, here's the numbers of how much my business makes at Septemberfest, which is a 3-day-long event where they close the streets for 7 hours longer than my event. One of the businesses in particular made about half as much as she did in the one day of Abigail's Pride. And they all came in and said, we like days where there's events down here. That's the only day that we make enough money to pay rent. I actually had worked for a business that was downtown who said, I need events because the months where there's no event, I can't pay rent that month, and I have to use my own money to pay rent.
Which, makes sense, right? Like, if you have events, you're bringing people into the town, right? So
it's not just those residents. You're bringing out people from
other communities,
from other states. We've had people come from like Ohio up to Ortonville, Michigan, and nobody had ever heard. I don't want to toot my own horn and say nobody's ever heard of Ortonville until me, but nobody had ever heard of Ortonville until Abigail's Pride, because Ortonville is tiny. And yeah, that was their only reason. There was one business in particular that I think that they had talked to the manager of, and he is not very supportive of Pride, but he said it's not even about that. It's just about my driveway is how my customers get here. It's like they sell propane and like feed for animals.
Okay.
And so they need their driveway open. But the issue with that is that we had offered and actually in our permit stated that we would put the barricade for the road like on the inside of their driveway so people could still access it and get out.
Huh.
And that was approved by the chief of police. So it was perfectly safe per his decision, and we had offered to do that, and they still denied it. And that business had actually, the owners of that business had actually wrote a letter and said, don't use our business as a reason to deny the event. We know that other businesses make money, and it's one day. Wow. Oh, well.
Goodness.
And they still denied it. And
it's hard to believe that there's no other underlining reason past the businesses.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought
very-
the underlying
Yeah,
reason
yeah,
is.
exactly. Yeah. It's very hard to be like, oh, yeah, I accept that. No. No, there's underlining something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it's one of the council members on their Facebook had even been posting, like, leading up to the event, like, for years has been posting, like, anti-LGBTQ things on Facebook. And it's like, are you sure that it was about the event and the businesses, or is it just that you don't like us? Because it seems a little bit more like it's that. But I didn't say that. They denied it, and I walked out. And I didn't think, I was prepared for a denial. I didn't think that it was going to affect me, but I remember walking out of that room. It was like a scene from a movie where, like, I actually just watched The Hunger Games. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but it's when Katniss is, like, getting stung by the Tracker Jackers, and she's hallucinating, and the people in front of her are, like, fading in and out. That's what I felt like walking out of the room. It was, like,
surreal.
It was so surreal, and people were, like, grabbing my hands, being like, I'm so sorry. And I just walked out, and I walked out into a big crowd of people outside of the township building, and everybody wanted to talk to me, and everybody wanted to give me a hug, and I just wanted to go home. We were actually, this was the night before I was leaving for vacation for spring break. So I was like, I just want to go home. I want to go to bed. I don't want to think about it. But at the same time, I was angry. And when I'm angry, I just want to talk forever and ever and ever. So there were people from the news there. And we went into Impact North, which is Tara's shop in town, and she was like, here, come in here, it's warm in there. This is the middle of the night now in March.
Yeah.
And so we went in there, and I did an interview for the news, which was so crazy. She was so sweet. She was like, if you don't want to do it, and I was like, no, we're gonna do it. Like, I'm not gonna pretend that they didn't. I'm not gonna pretend that it's fine and that, like, they're not gonna shut me up. Anyway, I'm not going to not do it because they said no. So I did that interview, but little did they know, actually that week of the meeting, I think it was before the meeting actually happened, the supervisor of Brandon Township, Jason Rumble, he contacted us and said, or my team, not me directly, so I can't say exactly what he said, but something along the lines of, if it doesn't go over well Monday night, feel free to use Brandon Township Community Park, all 12 acres of it, for free.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
How nice of him.
Yeah. He is great. He's been so supportive. He was the first person I went to because, again, 14-year-old me didn't know that there was a difference between the village and the township and who's in charge. I didn't know, so I went to him. I was like, can I do this? And he said, I can't tell you can do it, but I will back you 100%. And he has backed me 100% the entire time. It was the best, like, blessing in disguise that could have happened because the event this year at Brandon Township Community Park was phenomenal.
That's awesome. So do you plan on making that a permanent space in the future?
That's the goal. There is this August, there is an election for the Brandon Township supervisor position. And it's actually just the Republican primary. There isn't a Democrat running.
Okay.
That's typical for Ortonville. We only vote in the primaries because Democrats don't run for our councils or anything, and that's okay. I mean, I don't like I said, Jason Rumble, he's running Republican, and he's the most supportive person for me. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they all hate Pride or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
But there is the primary in August, and I do fear that if he doesn't win and his opponent, I guess, wins, she won't approve our use of the park. But it might be a loophole. We might be able to rent it out, which is fine. I don't expect to be able to use facilities for free. It's very nice that I was able to. Yeah. But I hope that we can have it there, or at least somewhere like it. I can't even think of anywhere else that would be feasible, but It was amazing. We had all of the vendors on the sides in like an archway, and then the information booth and all of the kids' activities in the middle. So kids could go in the middle and their parents could walk around and shop and still see them no matter where they were at.
Oh, wow.
Which somebody actually had come up to me and said, this is so much better than having a playground across the street behind a building where I don't know where my kid's at. Like, I am able to go enjoy myself as an adult, and I know that my kids are safe and I can see them.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So hypothetically, if, say, next year this person doesn't get reelected, would you consider moving it out of Ortonville?
I would consider it if we didn't have any other options, but I don't want to let down the people who need it there.
Oh, certainly.
But if I would rather move it than not have it at all.
Right. Because they can follow you.
Yeah, 100%. That's my plan, I think, is keep it here, keep it in Ortonville as long as possible. And if it's not possible, I'd rather have it somewhere. Right. I can't foresee not having Pride anymore, even though everything's going to be different moving forward because I won't be there. Yeah. And I've grappled with that a lot, being like, what do I do? Like, I'm not going to be here. I can't go to a meeting on a Monday night in March. Yeah. I could. I'm only going to be an hour away. But do I want to? Not really. I would, but I don't. It doesn't seem ideal for me to always be in my little hometown that I've wanted to escape forever. Yeah. But Tara, actually, she has said that her and Sarah, Sarah Armstrong is my vendor coordinator the past few years, they are going to mostly take over the festival planning in future years, and it'll be more Pride in the Park sponsored by Abigail's Pride, because I want to do more. I love doing the festival. I love event planning, like planning birthday parties for my friends is like my favorite thing. So doing the festival is very fun for me, but I feel like I want to do this forever. I want eventually to be able to make a living from doing nonprofit work for Abigail's Pride. And I know I'm not going to make that much money at all, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's the realm of nonprofit.
Yeah, that's all right.
True.
My other option is be an actor, like a live theater actor, and they don't make money either. So, yeah.
But I always feel like too, though. I mean, this is your passion, right? This is what you're passionate about, and I've always thought, really, we need to live for our passions. Like, why do I mean, obviously we have to be able to afford to live, but I mean,
sometimes you go outweigh, okay, yeah, the money is a big factor in this world. I get it. Like you said, the passion, you got to drive off the passion sometimes more than the financials. You really do. Because if you don't have that passion, like supporting those kids,
Mm-hmm.
then what's going to happen past that?
Right.
You're not going to have anything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's I love what I do. And I said, like, one of the big things that was important to me the first year was that I wanted school organization involvement because I wanted kids to be able to come to the event and see that's a group that I can participate in. That's a group where I'll be safe with them. Oh, those kids who are here, I can be friends with them. And I didn't even realize that it kind of did the same thing for me, because I was struggling to find friends the entirety of middle school and my freshman year of high school, and even most of my sophomore year, which was the first year that we had the event. I was so, like, lonely. I had like 8 different groups of friends that I would bounce between, and none of them really liked me, and I didn't really like any of them. And it was terrible. It was really bad. Like, being 10 to 14 and having no friends, that was rough. But then I had asked the theater department to be there, and the choir. The theater and the choir walked in the parade together. And I remember I got like golf cart shuttled over to the parade lineup by my dad. And I got off the golf cart and I saw them and I bolted over there. And it was like the longest, most best group hug I've ever experienced in my life. And that moment is when I was like, oh, these are my friends. And that is the moment that I wanted to give to other people. And I think that it happened. I've heard so many stories from kids and moms. There was, at one of the events, there was a mom who came up to me and said, thank you for doing this for everyone, but thank you more. Thank you for loving my daughter.
Oh.
And I was like, I don't even recognize you, but I'm sure that I know your kid. I graduated with 180 people or something like that. I know everybody, but I actually figured out who it was later.
Oh.
And then this past year, there was a mom or an aunt or something. I recognized her last name from kids that I go to school with. And she said, you're not just supporting the youth, you're supporting and advocating for the adults, because I never had this when I was little, and I feel like I'm healing and recovering now because of that. And that makes me cry. They come up and they tell me this, and I'm like, I have rainbow makeup on right now. I'm gonna cry it off, guys.
Oh my gosh. I mean, what a difference you're making.
Yeah.
And that woman says it perfectly. I mean, for even adults, because, I mean, let's be real, it still isn't, I mean, LGBTQ plus, right? Like, it's even now talking about that community is hard. It's so hard for people. And so imagine even like when she was younger, like
Oh, God.
just the trauma that she's experienced over the years, and what a difference that you're making.
Certainly.
Thanks.
Just really amazing. So talk to us a little bit about, like, I mean, obviously your family is hugely supportive of you, and I know that some aren't, of their kids. Like, what would you say to kids who are struggling with family members really understanding who they are and just loving them?
Wow. I would say, first of all, I'm sorry, because that's a horrible situation to be in. And my parents and most of my family are great, but I do have family members, extended family. One side of my family, almost the entirety of it, is not supportive. But I think that if you're in that situation, it's easy to get caught up in, if your family's not supportive, thinking that nobody is, especially when you live in such a small town like Ortonville or anywhere around here at all. it's easy to think like, oh, nobody around me is supportive and I don't have anybody. And I encourage people to find the people who do support you, because they are there. They do exist. And that's scary to have to go out and find them, but you can subtly, sneakily look for the people who are supportive. Go to your school's performing arts center. They're there. That's my advice. But there are always going to be people who support you, and it might take a long time to find them. It might take until your sophomore year of high school, and then they all graduate in the next year, and you're sad again. But they're there still. And it might take even longer. You know, I found my people because I put myself out there, and that's really scary for a lot of people. But the good news is that if you don't put yourself out there, somebody else probably will. And then you can, I don't know how to say it, like, if you don't go out and find them, they'll probably come to you. And it's sad that we live in a world where there are kids who don't get support like this from their parents, because I don't know what I would do without my mom in particular. She is so supportive. She's like world's best mom award goes to my mom 100%. And I say this all the time, like, she's my favorite person on the planet. I love my mom so much. And we argue, we bicker back and forth all the time, like constantly. But that's because I'm 18 years old and she's my mom, and that's just how it is.
Yep, she's still your mom.
Mm-hmm. But she's the best. She is on the Whining in Ortonville Facebook page. You're called out, by the way. Like every day, like looking at the comments, going through, being like there was one comment thread all about me and how I'm like indoctrinating the children and all these crazy things. And my mom went in the comments and was like, excuse me, I have receipts about my daughter complaining about you years ago because of how you treated her. So, do you want me to post them? I love my mom. Shout out to my mom. But
Thanks, Mom.
yeah, thanks, Mom. But sorry, I went on a tangent about my mom. That's
Cool. Hey, all the shout outs.
Yes, absolutely.
But it makes me sad to think that there are people who don't have that. And a lot of them are my friends. Like I know that it happens because they're my friends. Also, another piece of advice, you can share my mom. She's amazing. Like, seriously, like, kind of joking, but also seriously, like, there are also adults in your community who are supportive, and obviously every situation is different, and sometimes it's not really safe for you to find those people, but if it is, find those people, because they're amazing. And I have so many adults in my life who aren't my parents, who are, I don't know, like Marianne and Tara and all of these people that I love so much and that are so supportive of me and who I am and what I do, and they're amazing. And I think that it took some work to find them, but I'm so glad that I did. It was so worth it.
Yeah.
I would like to touch on a little bit, just briefly, if you would like to. Once you came out and started the Pride, we talked about the positive of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
How did that impact you mentally on the negative end of what you're getting from people? And how did you get through that?
Great question, Whitney.
Yeah. So usually before I started doing this, I cared a lot about what people thought, and I was also very vocal about it. Like if you said something that I thought was offensive, I was coming at you on Facebook, on Instagram, in real life, anything. Like if you said something that was mean to me, I would say something mean to you back. And that was just my personality for a long time, and I didn't really know how to handle it. And then once I started doing this, I was like, that's not gonna work because I can't waste my energy. And not to say it's like, oh, that's such a waste of your time to defend yourself. It's not, but it's taxing. It takes a lot of energy to like have to come back at people every single day. And it was hard. And I had to learn to like ignore it. I had to leave the Facebook groups and get off Instagram a little bit. And that's okay. That was fine. The hard part was at school. People didn't like it. People thought it was weird. The things that people said about me were crazy. Like that I was trying to defund the 4th of July fireworks for this. And I was like, are you kidding? I love fireworks. I love 4th of July because of fireworks. Like, also, I'm never in town on 4th of July, so I don't even care about that. I don't care what you do for 4th of July. I don't care. Do whatever you want. Or that I was trying to get rid of or like trying to take away from the Memorial Day parade. And I was like, that doesn't make sense because these are all things that I do still care about. Like, I'm not sitting here being like, I hate this country, screw you, Memorial Day. What? Right. That doesn't make any sense because I have walked in the Memorial Day parade in Ortonville for many years because I'm a member of the community. People were acting like I was trying to like tear something apart. It was hard for me because I was like, that's also good for me. Mm-hmm. All of these things that you enjoy, I'm not trying to take those away from you. I just also want to have this new thing. And I remember one day I was in school and I was in this class with a bunch of boys who were extremely homophobic. There's no other way to put it. They're just like super homophobes. And it was my sophomore year and I was in this class and we had a substitute teacher, and we had a substitute teacher in that class a lot. The teacher that year just wasn't in school a lot. And when he was there, it was fine because he would shut them down. He'd be like, no, go sit in your seat and shut up. But when he wasn't there, typically they were building subs, and building subs at my school don't particularly do anything. They kind of just sit there, and that's kind of their job, is just to sit there and be like, there's paper at the front, go get it, do it, don't burn anything. And she had given this group of kids the attendance sheet, and somehow in taking attendance, they had seen something like on another student's like name, I guess, on the attendance sheet that said something like they had a preferred name, or it was written in that they used different pronouns or something of that nature. But that person wasn't there that day, so they couldn't pick on them. And I'm kind of grateful that they weren't there because I don't want people to be picked on. Mm-hmm. But that made them pick on me. And I was sitting in the front of the classroom, and they circled my desk, and they were all like leaning on my desk, like leaning over me and just taunting me, being like, oh, you like gay people? And I was like, yes, what? Sorry? And it was atrocious. And the comments that they were making, I won't repeat ever, but it was really nasty. And I remember the teacher had to come over and been like, what are you guys doing? Like, what are you guys doing? What, are you messing around? And they were like, they said another thing that was nasty about me, and she laughed.
What?
And that was it. I was like, absolutely not. I got up and I was like, I'm going to the bathroom. Bye. And I left all my stuff in the classroom except my phone. I walked out into the hallway and I started sobbing. It was like that tracker jacker hallucination again. I was like, I don't know what to do. So I went into one of my favorite teacher my sophomore year. Her name was Rebecca Rodriguez, and she didn't have a class that period. And so I went into her room and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, class just started and I'm not good at biology. And that was the class that I was in. And I was like, I have to do my assignment and I cannot handle it. Like, I can't handle them being nasty to me. What do I do? And she was like, don't go back. I will go get your stuff. I have to go get a Red Bull from the staff lounge anyway. I'll be back. You stay here. And so I sat in her classroom and I did my work in there, and she put on Encanto, the Disney movie, on the screen, and I sat in her classroom, watched Encanto, and did my work while she did like work for her master's program. And that was the best thing that a teacher could have done in that moment, was just be like, don't go back. And then she communicated with the office, like, this is happening. She's not going back in that classroom if it's going to continue to happen, so fix it. And the school administration, their decision for what was best to do about the situation was call each individual kid down and say, Abigail Rowe, she said that you were bullying her, so what happened?
Oh my God.
And I was like, you're kidding. So then the next time we had a sub, it was worse. And I did the same thing. I went to the teacher. I was like, I don't know what to do. And at this point, I was just angry. I was like, I can't sit there and work. But, like, they didn't stop. It's worse because now they know that I said something. And so this time, the administration of my school, their solution was, okay, if there's a substitute in that class, how about you just go get the work and then go down to the cafeteria and do it?
That was their solution, was to exclude you from the class, like you're the problem?
Uh-huh.
Oh, no.
Oh.
No. No. That is so backwards. I cannot even.
Yeah, it was terrible. They actually did the same thing to another girl who happened to be in that class and dealing with a different group of kids. And both of our moms, thank God, worked in the cafeteria. At that time, they were there prepping for lunches. And so we would go down and do our biology work and try to figure out biology. I barely passed that class because I was never there, because the teacher was never there, and I wasn't allowed to be in class when there was a substitute. So it was so strange. And then the worst part about that is that the bullying continued this year. So it like gapped my junior year. It wasn't bad. I got a lot of backlash from like the outside that year. That's every year. But this year it came back and it was way worse. And it was in the places that I didn't want it to be happening. Like, it would happen in theater, and it would happen not by the kids there, like by kids who would come in and do it, and in choir. And it was like my first 3 hours of the day were just jam-packed full of all people who hated me and made it very known. And it was terrible. I stopped showing up. I think, like, the second semester, I went to my choir class maybe 15 times total. And my teacher had emailed me and been like, what is going on? You love choir. And I emailed him back and I was like, they're being nasty to me again. There's nothing you can do. And if you tell the office, they're going to tell me not to come. So I'm just going to do it myself. Because at least then they're not going to call the kids down and tell them that I told them.
Oh my goodness.
So I stopped showing up. I stopped going to class. And that was not a good solution. I don't recommend it because I barely passed my AP chemistry class, which was my second hour. Thank God the teacher was understanding, and I did some makeup work to fix it, and it was partially because AP Chem is the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life in terms of academics. It's bad, and I'm not even a science person. And partially because I wasn't showing up because there were kids in that class and the class before it and the class after it who were making my life miserable. And I didn't want them to know that it was because I wasn't there because they were making my life miserable, but then they started saying that I was just lazy and whatever because I wasn't showing up to school, and I was like, first of all, it's 7 a.m. It's not lazy to sleep until 8 o'clock in the morning, but also, you're right, I'm in school, I should be there at 7 a.m., right? But it's not because I'm lazy, it's because I can't handle being here with you, and also at this point planning a Pride Festival and trying to graduate on time and being in the musical and doing all of these things, and also dealing with the fact that the village council is trying to run me out of this town. So it was either be run out of town and not have a Pride Festival, or be run out of school. Those are my options.
There's a lot of hate going on.
Yeah. it's ridiculous. And there's always the adults who say things. That also bothers me. Because I'm, well, not anymore, but I was a kid. Like, you're on Facebook saying these nasty things about a child.
Yep.
And there was one woman who said that, like, I had babysat her. I was a nanny for 2 or 3 years for these 2 girls who I love still, and their family's amazing, and their parents are great. And it was right around when I was doing this. It was like the second year, I think. It must have been the first year that I started it, because it was both of the first 2 years, and I was nannying for them both summers. And so the parents knew that I was doing it, and I was working on it while I was there. The kids are not babies. They didn't need full-time attention. And they had neighbors who would come over and play at the house a lot, and I didn't mind. It was a little frustrating that they would leave the house, the parents, and send their kids over, and then I was babysitting their kids for free. But whatever, not the point of the story. But she went on the internet and complained about how I indoctrinated her children and told them all about being gay, and she didn't want them to know about that. And I was telling them about, like, my intimate life, and my mom was like, she was single. And I was like, yeah, I was single. I didn't have an intimate life. I was 15 at the time, and I maybe mentioned to them that, like, I have a pride festival, but the girls that I was babysitting were fine. They, like, during the whole month of June, they played Pride Month Roblox games or whatever they did. I don't know what kids do, but but, like, that was fine, and I didn't see anything wrong with me talking about what I was doing. Like, oh, Abby, you're on your computer. What are you doing? Oh, I'm planning the Pride Festival in town. And then she said, yeah, my kids were never allowed to go over there again after she said that, and that wasn't even true. That was the worst part to me, is that she didn't even actually care when maybe she did, but she didn't do anything about it when I was actually with her kids. She would leave the house and send her kids over to me willy-nilly all the time, but then years later on Facebook, she's on complaining and saying I indoctrinated her kids and I wouldn't leave it alone, and they were never allowed to come over to their friend's house anymore.
My goodness.
What? And one person had found my address, and because, like I said, we didn't have a P.O. box until this year. And when you pull permits for an event in downtown Ortonville, you have to put an address on it. And then those permits are posted publicly. Like, by law, they have to post the permits. And I get that. I don't think there's anything wrong with what the village did with the permits. But it was an oversight on our part to put my home address, on the permits that get posted publicly. And somebody found our address and told my mom that they were going to come to our house and find her and drag her by her hair into the center of town and, like, hang her and stone her because she's such a horrible parent. And
oh my gosh, humans are so awful.
Yeah.
Right? So awful.
That's the worst one.
That's terrible.
To, like, I don't, like, and my mom will say, like, the complete opposite, but I don't care if people come at me or, like, say nasty things about me on the internet, because I usually don't see it, because I have such great adults in my life who make sure I don't see it. Mm-hmm. But even if I do, I just laugh now. I'm like, what? Like, right now on our Facebook page, there's some comments. I feel like I've talked about Facebook so much, by the way, and I feel like the weirdest 18-year-old girl who's, like, on Facebook all the time. Whatever. There's some comments of, like, just people being mean, saying, like, oh, freaks in the park about the Pride Festival, and I just laugh. I'm like, what? You took the time to search my page and find a post and comment that? But to say nasty things about my mom and to threaten my mother and my family, get out. Like, I have no respect for a kind of person who would do that. I can't imagine. Because even the people who are nasty to me, I would never wish them harm. So we disagree. So, and to me, like, I always say, like, you can have disagreements. You can have disagreements about like pizza toppings and even politics. You can have disagreements, but you don't get to disagree with the fact that I am a human being who deserves to live my life. Like, that's just not an opinion.
Yeah, that's your life, not theirs.
Yeah, leave me alone, maybe. But even that, fine, be nasty. Don't threaten my family, you freak. Like, and I'm the freak because I happen to be okay with liking girls. That's the hill that you're going to die on. But you came on the internet and threatened my mother, and that's okay?
Yeah.
That makes me so aggravated.
Hypocritical.
Yeah. And I just wish that, you know, it's so infuriating, actually. Like, why can't people just, you live your life,
Right.
I live my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's cool, right? So however I choose to do that and however you choose to do that,
You don't have to live my life.
and
I'll
we
live
just
your life
and everything is fine.
I judge you by who you are as a person.
Your character.
If you're gonna be respectful, you know.
If you're gonna threaten people.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you shouldn't base it off of anything else like that. You know, they're gonna live their life the way they want to. I'm not gonna sit here and bash and dictate a Christian or a Catholic for living the way they want to live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not
You're
gonna do
right.
that. That's not my place. Or
Ugh.
that's what I feel. But
Well,
we could go into a whole new
we
could. And I won't do that. But
Abigail, I just we're just, I know I'm speaking for both of us, but I know we're completely amazed by you, and I'm really sorry that people in this world are so incredibly shitty. I'm just gonna say that because it's terrible, and I'm glad that, I mean, for 18 years old, just like who you are and just
doing so much for anybody else.
Yeah, for all these other kids, and that just really speaks to my heart. And we're so grateful for you coming on the show today and talking to us about all the things.
All the things.
And you're going to college in the
Yes,
fall.
I am.
So that's super exciting.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. Like, I'm really excited. I'm nervous. I had a breakdown the other day. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do without my mom. See, my mom, she's pretty dope.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited. And it won't be too far.
Yeah. Only an hour, right?
Only an hour.
It's
Saginaw Valley. It's 55-minute drive from my house.
Fine. And I feel like you're just going to make such an impact there, and you're going to make all these great new friends, and I'm excited for you to go. I think
It's a whole new journey.
It is. Well, any last words that you might have for our audience before we let you go?
Just thank you. Thank you guys for having me. This was really fun, and this is a really fancy microphone, but more importantly, I always like when I'm able to share, you know, my story, and maybe somebody, that's just what they needed to hear that day. And I think you guys do a lot of that. Maybe that's just exactly what they needed to hear that day.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that from you guys. It's really it's amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I am really excited to put your podcast out there because I do think that your story is the story that people out there need to hear.
Oh, yeah.
And so just another way that you're making an impact in the world. So
Yes.
way to be the change, Abigail.
Real
Thanks.
quick, before we end this, what's your website?
My website? Oh, it's just abigailspride.com.
Okay.
Yes, abigailspride.com. It's I should probably go
I think
edit
it's
my
more-
website.
I looked it up, so it seemed I've never seen a website like this. So I found abigailspride.godaddysites.com.
Yes. So if you do abigailspride.com, it'll take you there. That is because I don't know how to work websites, and I bought the domain and then also made the website under a different domain, and I had to link them, but either one will work in your search engine to take you there. So.
Excellent. And people can find you on social media as well.
Yes, we're Abigail's Pride on all social media. I think _Abigail's_Pride on Instagram. We have a Facebook page too. We have a TikTok now.
Awesome.
I don't post a lot on social media. Sometimes I'll go in there and post on like the stories or make a birthday post, but I'm always watching. I look at everything and I log in and I read the comments, even though I'm not supposed to, but I do.
So to all of our listeners, our audience out there, make sure that you go out and if you are supportive and a decent human being, please follow her and show your love and support. We would appreciate it.
Yes.
So, anything else, Whitney? We're good?
I think we're good.
This was a great episode. I cannot wait.
Again, thank you so much.
Of course, anytime. Seriously, I'll come be on the podcast anytime. This was so fun.
Excellent. All right. Well, I guess that's it for today. So we'll catch you on the flip side. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We are just your friends. Whitney and I are not licensed therapists, and this podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of a physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional.